are you all? Are you all fine? Yes, I hope you all are fine and well. Okay, so let's begin our chapter number 3, the Delhi Sultanate, and we'll learn about the next part, the developments of the Sultan period. But before we did that, in our last period I told you about some sultans' inventions and how that Sayyid dynasty, then Tughlaq dynasty, then all dynasty I taught. Now I am going to teach you about developments of the Sultanate period. So during the Sultan period, a lot of development happened in that every field. The Sultan ruled, people settled at one place. They left that life, nomadic life, and they settled nearby the garrison, means in the care of their soldiers. Garrison means that towns where the soldiers are taking care, means soldiers living in that town. So people settled at that places where that soldiers living. So under the control of soldiers, that all people settled at one place, and that soldiers were taking care of all that people. Okay, so that permanently soldiers stay at that place, and in that garrison they stay, and some rules were there that they have to follow made by the soldiers. Some territorial attacks happen to control that attack, that soldiers were needed, and some expansions are there, some attacks to control that soldiers needed, so that all towns and people settle nearby that places. Suppose Ziauddin Balban and then Alauddin Khilji, that all that settle, that make the people settle in that places. The Samantas are there, some landowners were there. In earlier time, they were given duties to collect taxes from the peasants and other peoples. So then they directly came under the control by the Sultan in Sultanate period. In Sultan, they all came under that Sultan. They directly responsible to the Sultan, and the Sultan made them also to pay tax, means themselves also they have to pay tax. So a lot of tax they are collecting, and their duty was means controlled by the Sultan. The forests during that Sultan period, most of the forest sites are there. The forests were cleared, that, and the land which was there, that was given to the peasant. Forest clear, so that hunter gatherers and that nomadic people living in that forest, they all means left their places, and the remaining that land was there, that was given to the peasant for farming. Then there was tax of the that land nearby the rivers of Ganga and Yamuna plains. It was that Sultan led military force. A lot of money is spent to maintain the military and trained soldiers, trained horses, elephants, tending army, that ground attack, that all he was taking care. So distant provinces are there. Some distance he can't control. So there he kept that subordinate sub kings there, and eventually that some rebellions broke out, and that many that developments happened in Sultan period. Okay? So that all persons were directly responsible to the king. Okay. Now the Sultan. The Sultan was initially just a secular and ruler eventually. Sultan is in the main position. Sultan is the supreme king of that all administration. He was in the top position in all administration. Under the Sultan, that all categories coming like a wazir, Aris al then Fakir-e-Dar, Amir-e-Hazib, that all persons are coming under the category of Sultan. In short, all decisions that are taking with the advice of Sultan. They have to discuss all decisions with Sultan, and in short, according to advice of Sultan, they will run. And in some matters, Sultan he was taking help of these all administrations persons in his administration. So during Sultan period, there was no clear rule that whom can be a king. After the king will die, then who can be a king? Definitely his elder son will be a king. That was the rules. But in Sultan time, it was not possible. Did not automatically the eldest son of the king did not automatically succeeded by his father. But there was a revolt among all the nobles, then some officers and some generals, then nobles and generals. They were also revolting and fought among each other and for that position of ruler. So any stronger person they can be a ruler. There was no any rules of the king that who can be a king after that. Then it was not proper rules, so that all the nobles and some generals they all were fighting, and it was the decline of that empire sometime, because then they were fighting to become a king. Then some foreign attacks happening, then they were not able to control that attack. Then it was the decline of that king or that kingdom of king. So you know that once the power of Sultan had kept, Sultan had to check the powers of all nobles. That once the Sultan got the position, he had to check the power of these all officers, that how much power they contain and how much knowledge they have. So Sultan had to do that work. The nobility. Next point is that the nobility. The nobles were very powerful group. Nobles were very powerful groups. The early Sultan rulers often gave high position to their slaves in their administration. In their administration work, Sultan sometimes gives a high position to their slaves also. Means a slave can be an officer in the court of king. He can be a courtier in the king court. So you know that slaves were sometimes often trained. They are well developed strength and trained well, so they get position or in the kingdom in a high post. They sometimes they get it. So the Sultan could rely on, since they were dependent on them. So that Sultan keeping them, since they were dependent on that Sultan, some important post that king means Sultan giving in his kingdom. Iltutmish, he favored a slave, a special slave called Bandganas, and who were purchased for military service. Then you know that this meant that people of humble birth they get high position, high rank position in the court of kingdom. So sometimes the slaves were there, they were all honest to their masters, but they were loyal to their master, but they were not loyal to their heads. The new Sultan had their own rules, their own rules and their own slaves. As a result, there was a fighting, or they fought with each other, that new slaves and the earlier slaves. Then in literature, this period, the term Chihangini is mentioned there, that it has been connection with Iltutmish special that slaves. So you know that slaves are there, they were also getting that high rank position in that king's administration, and some slaves were powerful, so they getting high rank position in that Sultan's period and Sultan's kingdom. So Alauddin Khilji, he forbid the nobles from associating with each other and prevent plans of rebellions. Okay? So these things happen. In short, the nobles are there, sometimes getting high position in king's kingdom, and that nobles were very strong and these all were very faithful and loyal to their masters, and sometimes their rates are there, they are not as much as loyal to them. So now administration is there. Administration is the great achievement of Mughal rules. The Sultan has absolute control in all matter in his administration. Sultan is the supreme power. The all power is there in the hand of Sultan. In short, the Sultan controls this all. That he has. There are some officers in the court of Sultan, that Wazir, Arize, Mamlik, and Wakil-e-Dar, Amir, Hazim. That all officers are there. They were helping to the king in Sultan in his decision. So king always means getting advice from these officers. That Wazir, he has given the duties as like a prime minister, collecting some taxes and keeping that records of revenues, income, expenditure record. He keeps at different places. Then Arize Mamlik, he was connected with the military forces. He maintained some trained soldiers, military forces and horses, trained horses, trained elephants, standing army. In short, his duty was to maintain that military. Then next officer is the Wakil-e-Dar. He mentioned that all duties of that king's royal activities, that affairs of royal affairs and household affairs, that all responsibility Wakil-e-Dar taking. Then Amir-e-Hasib, he was the master of ceremonies. Whatever ceremonies and functions, meetings happen in that Sultan period, that all responsibility was of Amir-e-Hasib taking. In short, it was controlled by Amir-e-Hasib. Then the Sultan also advised on judicial and some that religious matters by ulmas. And empire was there, that full empire was divided into different, that several provinces. That empire is called Subas. And that all Subas are there, they are divided in 6, and then villages are there, they are called Paraganas. And all each Paraganas are there, they are called Muktis and Iktedar. So that most of that Iktedars were there, they were the famous and most loyal slaves of the kings. So they decide the land rules and stand in their places and collecting taxes from the peasants, and means they are directly responsible to the king. So the land were called Iktis, and Iktedar had to maintain laws, and that all rules were done by the king, and Iktedar have to collect taxes from the peasants. The landowner in that time, the landowner is there, that known as Mukaddam, and or the Khud, we can say Mukaddam or Khud, the landowner of that time. Some important position in the village, that guiding, that Mukaddam guiding important position in village. The Patwari kept the land record. The Patwari was there, he kept the land records. Next is there economy. Economy is there. In that Sultan period, the most of the economy was dependent on land. Land was the most important source of income, means income tax or revenue. We can say kharaj, the tax on cultivation. Tax on that cultivation is called kharaj, which amounted 50% of peasants' income. Whatever income of peasant happening, that 50 percentage they have to pay as a tax to Sultan. Some other taxes were there, like charai was placed to keep cattle. Cattle tax was called charai, and the tax which was owner of that horse they have to pay that gharai. Gharai is another tax is there. That owner of horse, that owner of house, they have to pay that tax, that gharai. Sultan, that all administration is there under the control of Sultan. Gharai is the house tax, and then charai is there. That was the owner of cattle. They have to pay. Some positions are there. The samantas are there. They served revenue collector and helping to the Sultan in collecting taxes. Some landowners and some samantas they help to the king. Alauddin introduced a number of market regulations and reform some rules that he fixed the price of all means household items like that sugar, oil, then horses, cooking oil, that all. He appointed some officers, whether the merchants are there, they are following his order or not, means they are maintaining discipline or not, and the goods are selling at that fixed price or not. The merchants, those who are taking more price, they can be punished. They can be punished by the king. And during the time of food shortage, he fixed some price of that good food items, and the merchant can sell that at the fixed price only. And Alauddin ordered measurement of all the places under his cultivation and that land, and peasants have to pay tax. Peasants have to pay tax, more tax, whose land is nearby Yamuna and Ganga river, so they have to pay more tax. And the revenue and the grains were collected and sometimes transported to the city as a storage in as a food. Okay. The Mongols problem happened during the Sultan period. Lot of Mongol problems happened. Attack problem happened. That Mongols attacked in north and west. That Iltutmish refused to grant shelter to Jalaluddin Angbarnani, a ruler of Fardam and province in Central Asia, and which led the purpose of Genghis Khan, and then saved the Mongol attack from India. That Balban built a huge boundary among around his kingdom to save from that Balban attack. Alauddin Khilji and Muhammad bin Taghlab also faced a lot of problem of Mongol attack and raised a large standing army and maintained a large horse army to protect themselves from the Mongol attacks. One of the reasons that Muhammad bin Taghlab shifted his capital to Daulatabad because that Delhi was very near, so that attack was happened very clearly, so he shifted his capital. And last, decline of the Sultan. The decline of the Sultan position declined. That Sultanate why declined? Because that started during the Taghlab period itself. It started that Taghlab period. The successor of Taghlab, they happened thick, and during the reign of Muhammad bin Taghlab, a number of attacks happened, like that Timur's attack on Sultan periods, and some kings were weak. They were not able to control the attack of the Timurs like from foreigners, and some powerful kingdoms even like that Brahmani and Vijayanagara kingdoms happened. So that king were not able to, not as much as powerful to control that attack. Then some Afghan groups, Rajput groups, they came into power, and their Sultan rulers, they were not able to control that all, and it was end happened of Sultan period. The weakness of Sultan was further exposed, and the Taimur invasion finally in 1526, the rule of Delhi Sultan came into end with the Battle of Tarai, with the Battle of Panipat, in which Babur and the Babur's victory happened, and with the victory of Babur, there was foundation of Mughal rule in India. So this is the lesson that how that British rules, that Mughal rule started in India, that we learn. Okay, bye everyone.